All right, Sigma just announced two new lenses for the Sony E Mount and L Mount Alliance, the 90mm f2.8 I series contemporary lens and the 24mm f2I series contemporary lenses. How do they perform? Who are these lenses for? And is Sigma starting to confuse us a little bit with this lens lineup? Let's talk about it. Now, before we kick things off, I do want to let you know we're not paid or sponsored for this video. These are my thoughts and my thoughts only, but big thanks to Sigma Singapore for providing the lenses for review. So let's kick things off. Let's talk about the design of the 90 f2.8 first, because this was one of the more surprising lenses out of the two for me. First off, the size. It is really compact for a 90mm lens. You know, normally when you think 90, you think quite a longer lens, but it is not. It is almost getting into that Leica territory, or pseudo Leica territory, I should say, in terms of the compactness of it. But it is packing a big punch in what is inside of it. We've got 11 elements in 10 groups, 5 SLD elements, and 1 spherical element. We've got 9 rounded diaphragm blades to it. It goes from f2.8 to f22. The filter size on this is 55 millimeters. The minimal focusing distance is 50 cm. So this is not a macro lens. Usually when you hear 90 f2.8, you're thinking macro, especially for you Sony users out there. This is not a macro lens. Now, the diameter on this is slightly different for the L mount and E mount, and I think it's just basically due to the mount itself. The L mount is slightly shorter and the Sony is slightly longer, but by a couple millimeters, not a big deal. But the weight of this lens comes in at 295 grams, and this lens is an all-metal construction. It is beautifully made. If you've never seen the I series contemporary lenses before, this is not the Sigma of years past. I mean, this is premium build quality, especially for the price. I would say it is hard to find a lens out there with this build quality at this price. You just don't find it. I mean, it's made in Japan. It's all metal construction. The design is gonna, it's going to resemble a little bit of a cinema lens, but it's made for photographers and videographers in that sense. And the aperture ring has a nice click to it, as all Sigma lenses have. The focusing ring is just beautiful and smooth. Again, it's autofocus anyway. You're probably not going to use a manual focus that much, but if you want to use it, you can. And it's just built beautifully, and it's so compact. Look at this lens. This is really compact. And it packs a big punch in terms of image quality on this. At 2.8, it is sharp. And that's one of the things that Sigma is doing with its I series contemporary lenses. They're trying to keep these lenses as sharp as possible, wide open. Sort of taking a cue from Leica in that regard, which is a great thing. Of course, when you stop down, most lenses become sharp anyway, and they sort of balance themselves out in terms of competition. But really where you see the difference in good lenses versus bad lenses, how they perform wide open. And Sigma is really concentrating on that with this I series contemporary lens lineup. And this lens performs beautifully. Now, it is a little soft in the corners at a 2.8, but in the center of the frame, it is tack sharp. Now, you will notice that you're losing a stop of light on this, so you're going to have to crank up the ISO a little bit more at f2.8 versus, let's say, 1.4 f2. It's not a deal breaker, but obviously, depending on the camera that you're using, you may see more noise creep in, especially in lower light situations. But one of the good things I liked about this lens is shooting it against backlight subjects. Did a quick test on this with one image here where you see some of the bushes, and there's some minimal fringing there, but it is so minimal that you almost got to zoom in almost 200 to 400% to actually see it. It is easily correctable in Lightroom or whatever software that you're going to use, but it's not that bad at all. It's really well corrected. So again, hats off for Sigma for making a really nice lens, especially for the price point. It's a hard lens to say no to. It just depends if you need a 90 f2.8 lens. That's not a macro lens. That is where it's going to be interesting. Okay, now let's talk about the 24mm f2I series contemporary lens. Now, inside of this lens, you've got 13 elements and 11 groups, 1 FLD element, 2 SLD elements, and 2 spherical elements. It is a 9 rounded diaphragm blades, f2 to f22 on the aperture. Minimal focusing distance is 24.5 cm. And the filter size on this is 62 millimeters. Now, obviously, there's going to be a slight difference in the size of the lens in terms of length because of the mounting on that. As I mentioned before, just a couple millimeters difference on that, not a big deal. And the weight, the L mount is slightly heavier, coming in at 365 grams versus 360 grams for the Sony E Mount. Now, in case you're wondering how it performs on video, this entire review is using the 24 f2 to record me right here on a Sony E Mount camera. So you're seeing the performance. It is tack sharp. Eye tracking is working beautifully. It is a fantastic performing lens in that regard. Now, both of these lenses, because they're I series contemporary lenses, they will come with the metal magnetic lens cover to this. Now, I don't have it for this review because I opt for the plastic one because I tend to drop lens covers sometimes and I don't want to dent them or scratch them, the review units, and they have to go back to Sigma. So I prefer the plastic ones in my personal opinion. Anyway, just regardless, but it's a nice addition to have. In terms of the image quality coming out of this lens, again, tack sharp. You can tell by what's inside of it. It is loaded up with great glass. I mean, in the center of the frame, it is razor sharp. Does soften around the corners at f2. Of course, it does tighten up when you go to f4 and above that, but it is something to take note of. It's not a deal breaker, but you're used to seeing these with most lenses out there at their widest aperture, sharper in the center, a little softer in the edges. Great bokeh in the background, fall off to it. It looks really good. No issues or complaints with that, and great control with the chromatic aberration as well. I mean, you've got two spherical elements in this and all the other great glass, so you are really well controlled in that regard. But the 24mm focal length is an interesting focal length. It's not for everybody out there. Some people will prefer a 28mm, or they might even prefer to go wider at 14 or 20 or 22. So it is something that this will be more of a specialized lens, I think, for some people out there. But if you love the 24mm focal length and you're looking for something a little bit faster than, let's say, the 3.5 that Sigma launched a number of months back, also in the I series contemporary lens lineup, then this f2 is a lens I would definitely go for. Now, in terms of design, it has a little bit more different design than the 90 f2.8. It resembles the 35 f2 and 65 f2 I series contemporary lenses. It's got that same sort of metal, construction all the way through. You have this nice gloss metal ring that's in the center of it that sort of differentiates it from that matte black. It just adds a little bit of luxe to the lens. It's a beautiful design lens. The aperture ring also sounds fantastic, got that nice click to it. The lens hood is metal, just like the 90 f2.8. It is a solid lens through and through, but this lens does have some heft to it. Coming around 360 to 365 grams, you are going to feel it. It's not too heavy, of course it's not, but you know that this lens screams quality. And I have it here on, let's say, the Sigma FPL. I put it onto the Lumix S1R, the SL2, SL2S. Even for you Sony users out there, let's say the A7C, it's going to look great on that camera. Even your Sony, let's say A7 III Alpha 1, it'll look good on that as well. It's a really well-made lens, I have to say. And for the price point, again, like the 90 f2.8, it's a hard lens to say no to, especially if you're looking for this focal range and this aperture. But yeah, I'm very, very pleased with how it performed. So let's talk about this whole conundrum of what's going on with Sigma lenses, because it's getting a little bit confusing, even for me as a reviewer, because these are considered I series contemporary lenses. And in terms of Sigma's verbiage, these are, premium compact prime lenses. So they have that contemporary lens design with cinema, lens design elements in it, but it's using sort of like art glass inside of it. So you're getting really good optics in this, but nowhere on a box or nowhere on marketing do you know that this is an I series lens, but they're calling it that. So it's really confusing, and they have the C on it for contemporary. So I wish Sigma, if you're watching this video, I wish you would differentiate these lenses a little bit more. Put an eye on it. Dress up the box a little bit different. Make it something special out there that when a buyer knows that an I series lens in a way is a step up from the contemporary lens, especially when it comes to optics. And I mean build quality as well. It would be a nice thing to have out there to really sort of differentiate your lineup, because you have the art series lens, which we know are the creme de la creme for Sigma. Then you have your sports lineup, which is basically art glass in a sports lens, right? And it's durable, it's weather resistant, it's meant to be taken out in the harsher terrains. The contemporary lenses, a lot of people can consider them to be more of that budget-friendly lens. But then the I series is supposed to be luxe but compact prime, but you're still labeling it as a contemporary lens. It's confusing. It really is. And I hope Sigma does fix this. And also, it would be nice to have some sort of lens roadmap out there. So buyers out there, if you're looking for a 24mm lens, for example, a number of months back, I think 4 or 5 months back, or maybe longer now, I forget, was the 24 3.5 lens that was released with the 35mm and the 65mm f2. Very good lens. But then here comes the 24mm f2. So if you were a buyer that you needed a 24 and you bought that lens, and now here comes the f2, you might be like, hey, wait a second. What happened here? Why not launch a 24 f2 along with these other f2s? Or give us a lens roadmap so we have an idea. I know Sigma wants to keep things in suspense sometimes, but some of these lenses aren't going to be like the superstar lens. It's not gonna be like, say, a 105 1.4 or, something really, exotic and interesting where you want to keep it a little bit of a secret. These are going to be workhorse lenses. So it'd be nice to have that roadmap. So at least buyers and us reviewers for that matter know what to expect, at least in some way. Anyway, so those are just my thoughts, a little off topic, but as Sigma, if you're watching, maybe clean up the lens lineup a little bit in terms of organization. It would definitely help out buyers and reviewers alike. So those are my thoughts on the lenses. I really enjoyed using them for the past week or so I've had them. They're really nice, build quality is fantastic. And if you're looking for these focal lengths and the apertures, I mean, for the price point, it's a hard lens to say no to, in my personal opinion. Anyway, that's it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Stay safe. Follow us on Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Like this video. It helps out the channel a lot. And I'll talk to you in the next one. Take care.